Hello there! Welcome back to Friends on Film, the movie podcast where two friends sit and talk about some of their favorite things in the world, that of course being movies, occasionally television, maybe even theater at some point. I'm Michael, and joining me back on the couch today is Mr. Benjamin Trevino. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great, Michael. I'm so happy to be here because now that the summer has come to a close, well, the summer solstice is still, a week or two away.
Right.
But the blockbuster season, however, has come to I've got to be honest, a pretty fine ending because this summer, even though I didn't get to see a lot, there were some good things that I did get to see, I will be honest. And only one thing that we saw that was technically a bad movie, but we still had a blast.
True. Before we begin, though, we just want to make a very quick statement. While we're not a political channel at all, or a political show, this has been a very horrifying, violent week, not just with the murder of Charlie Kirk, but another school shooting that has happened. And while we are, of course, not going to discuss how that can be fixed or anything on that regard, because this is a place for movies and we want you to feel comfortable, just know that we condemn any violence at all in any form, whether it be political, emotional, or mental. And there is definitely things that need to happen and definitely stuff that our politicians bipartisanly need to fix.
Things will be discussed and they can be discussed somewhere else, but they're not going to be discussed here.
Right.
Now, with that said,
we want to always make this a safe place for all of you, and we're going to be talking because we're going to start with this summer. And technically, with our first movie that we got to see this summer, it came out in May in a limited release, but it got its wide release in June, so I'm going to put it there. That, of course, being Wes Anderson's The Phoenician Scheme.
Yeah, we talked about this a handful. This movie's getting, I guess it didn't do well at the box office, nor is it getting a whole lot of attention. I feel bad, but then again, movies like, I guess, the Darjeeling Limited, that movie kind of got, not thrown under the bus, kind of went under the radar, but now has kind of picked up its following. So I'm hoping we get another Darjeeling from this movie because this is a movie that really has layers behind it in the most tight-knit fashion, as we said in our review.
Yeah, I would say that for this film, it's still, I think, one of Wes Anderson's best scripts he's ever written, and I think it's some of his best characters. And I really think it shows just how good of a director he's become.
It really shows also how willing he's not wanting to go outside his comfort zone, but how he wants to expand upon his craft, because he usually doesn't take characters that are this despicable. Usually he has characters that are, usually they've got their quirks. They're characters that are very not damaged, but they've got their quirks that hold them back from, I guess, being perfect, but they're still all around, you follow them around like your friend. This is a man, his name was Jaja, that was the character's name, played beautifully by Benicio del Toro, and he plays the most despicable billionaire based off of any billionaire you can think of out there in the world. And he creates a story that almost shows the humanity behind someone like this, which you could almost argue is pretty hard to do.
Oh, absolutely. And I think for this movie, I was blown away by how good all the performances were. Of course, by Benicio, Mia Threpleton was amazing, and so was Michael Cera.
He surprised me the most, probably.
Right, and I am blown away by the amount of work that got to be done for this movie, and I think it turned out very, very well in the end. And while I think it did okay at the box office, I think this is definitely one that, as it's going to find its footing, possibly on Netflix, since I think that's where Indian Paintbrush does a lot of their stuff, that's probably where it's going to have its biggest success and its biggest heyday. And hey, Academy, I would say production design and script, this might be an early contender.
I'd say maybe at least 5 Oscar nods, if not script, costume, production design, cinematography, and probably, if not best leading and not supporting actress.
Probably. I could also see Michael Cera pulling a best supporting actor nod.
Yeah.
It's still very early to tell.
Very early.
I could also see Desplat getting a best original score nod for this.
Oh, that's very true. There's quite a bit to throw out in terms of awards, which obviously may not get all those decisions, but we're already predicting what we want to see from the Academy. So.
Right. And so, as I can say, Phoenician Scheme, still good, still great.
Give it a look, and if you're not sure, watch our review, and if that gives you the confidence, go for it.
Another one that we'll quickly touch on about how good it was, and I still like it even after sitting with it, it's the remake of How to Train Your Dragon.
The remake of How to Train Your Dragon also surprised me, because we're in this era where Disney likes to churn out remakes, and most of the audiences out there like to be those folks that say, this sucks, blah, blah, blah. And yes, a good chunk of them don't work. this is DreamWorks now, and DreamWorks has also not only remade a classic, they also brought in the original director, one of the original directors, Dean Dubois.
Yeah, Dean Dubois came in, and it feels more like a director's cut since it is, for the most part, a shot-for-shot remake. And yet, unlike something like Gus Van Sant's Psycho or anything that feels like it would be corporately done.
Or redundant of sorts,
Or redundant. It feels fresh, new, and exciting still. Almost as if it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but we're going to still do it with the same heart and passion that we know we can make it with.
And what's even cooler is, even though, like I was bringing up with some of these remakes, or just movies in general, a lot of movies like to be very CG heavy. This was the most best-looking movie that had a good blend of CG and just nature shots, because they filmed this in Ireland, and they had all these beautiful shots of the forest and some of the oceans and some of the islands. It was like, wow, you guys literally went out of your way to show off this place to make it feel like it was real.
Right. Bill Pope's cinematography is still stunning, and I could see it pulling a best cinematography nod, maybe. It depends. I know the Academy typically doesn't award films unless it's like Avatar, that are like these big budget shot films. And I think Bill Pope is also doing the cinematography for Avatar Fire and Ash.
Oh, boy.
So he might get nominated for that, so not bad for him.
And, of course, an amazing score from, who did the score?
Powell.
John Powell, yeah.
But I am excited for the sequel, and Bill Pope has said, because he was actually a replacement, because originally Dean Dubois wanted to go with Roger Deakins.
Oh, of
since
course.
Deakins helped with the animated cinematography of the animated films. And he wanted to do it, but he's tied up in another project at the moment. But he says, if I'm free for the second one, Bill has told me he will step aside to let me do it. Which, it would be truly respectful. And I think Bill Pope is an incredible cinematographer. So if he's saying, I want Deakins to shoot this as he would see it, I think it would be incredible.
But yeah, it's a good camaraderie with the folks. So overall, yeah. Oh, and again, much like Phoenician Skiing, great performances from the kids, and
Mason Thames
Mason Thames
just hiccup in real life.
But the real standout for me was Gerard Butler as Stoic.
Like him and Nick Frost were the two standouts that just made me go, wow, this is just straight up from the original animated film in live action, and it looks perfect. Disney, take notes.
You know Gerard Butler, when he got that call from Dubois saying, hey, I'm going to remake How to Train Your Dragon. Do you want to do Stoic in live action? You know that phone immediately hung up when he was knocking at his door saying, when do we begin filming?
And then another film we'll go quickly over as well, because we already reviewed it, was a film that sadly did not get a lot of attention, and it deserves it. It's on Disney Plus now. It is Elio.
Yes, Elio is a movie that truly is made from a place of heart. It was made by a director who had an idea, but he did not know where he wanted to take that idea. And then Pete Docter came in and said, look, I understand this is what you want to do for the movie, but will this work for audiences?
Right, and Domi Shi did a phenomenal job taking up the reins of the film and creating
the other director
very
too.
emotional
Yeah,
movie.
there were two directors. Yeah, Domi Shi, who did Turning Red, and the other director who I'm blanking on the pronunciation of her name, but I know she's done a lot of other work with Pixar, especially Turning Red. She's even done work on Cartoon Network with We Bare Bears, I believe.
I think Daniel Chong with We Bare Bears, what you're thinking, he's going to do Hoppers.
Oh, okay.
Next year, which I'm very much looking forward to.
But overall, like, this is one of those cases where a director leaves the project and you could immediately argue, oh, well, there was some creative differences and, the studio had to bring in someone at the last minute. It's like, no, there was some talks, as we said earlier, and it's like, let's bring in these folks.
Yeah.
You just stay in contact with them.
You figure out with Pixar films, you cannot judge them based on what went on behind the scenes.
You really can't.
Because, as they have said, Toy Story 3 is the only movie they've made that didn't have a major meltdown behind the scenes and had to rework everything. Which
is insane. I mean, if that's what you heard for Toy Story 3, Toy Story 3 went smooth. Wait until you hear what happened with Toy Story 2. Look up the video, What the F Happened to This Movie by Joe Blow. That it really details, man, it's a miracle we got Toy Story 2.
Yeah, and Up went through major rewrites as well, because the original pitch was nothing like what the original movie did. Actually, that's almost everything except Inside Out was what Pete Docter...
Yeah, Pete Docter
has had all the changes to his movies. They are very rarely the very first thing he comes up with as they make the movie.
Yeah, I heard Inside Out was, of course, the one that really tested his mentality on like what story he wants to tell. But regardless, back to Elio. Elio is a story that is so simple and so charming, and I can't believe it flew under the radar. Of course, it's so surprising because the theater we were in was packed.
Right.
That was opening weekend, granted, but you'd think that consistency would stay going. But maybe, for all we know, maybe How to Train Your Dragon overwhelmed them a little bit. Maybe that was it.
Whatever happened, I think everyone should still watch Elio. It's on Disney Plus now. Give it a look. It's amazing.
The reason why we haven't talked more about it is because you need to watch it. Because us talking about it more would be a huge disservice. Plus, we have a review.
And now getting onto a movie, I don't think you've seen this yet. But when I heard the name, at first I was going, huh? And then I watched it, and I was blown away. And that was, surprisingly, K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah, I've heard that name popped around. What's up with that movie?
So K-pop Demon Hunters is an original animated film from Sony Pictures Animation, and Netflix is its distributor. And some people have said it should have been a theatrical release. I would argue Netflix was the best thing that could have happened to it. Mm-hmm. And it's this original movie about these three, based in Korean mythology and K-pop, about each generation has these group of vocalist warriors that are women, and they go throughout the ages. And now we're in the modern day with them being K-pop stars, which is their front, but their main job is protecting the world from demons with their songs and music they write. And the main character, Rumi, suddenly finds that she's in a really compromising position. And I am being a little vague because it's worth watching. I will say this is very much like Spider-Verse, where it's tropes it's stories where it's going to go, but the characters are so rich and complex, you're kind of scared when you know where the movie is going. And it even takes your least favorite trope in an animated movie and dials it up to a 10, and it works.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm talking about the liar reveal trope where someone's like revealed to be a liar, and then there's separation, and then there's people being sad for what is supposed to be 10 minutes but feels like 30 minutes, and then there's a big comeback and everything's all forgiven.
Yeah, they do that and it works.
Wow.
It genuinely feels so good to watch this movie and being like, this trope still works, the story still works. And the crazy thing is, for the two directors, Chris Applegate, his only other film was Wish Dragon that came out in 2021, which was, from what I understood, was a cute, fine movie. Mm-hmm. And this is the directorial debut of Maggie Kang.
Okay.
And it's incredible. The entire cast is all Korean actors.
Yes.
They all are funny. They're all incredibly well done. The animation is spectacular. The songs of this movie are insane because of the way that not only how well it's shot and filmed, but a lot of people have always said that some of the problems is when a musical is too vague. Well, this is a musical that has songs that you can hear out of context and still love them, but when you see it in context of the film, because they're pop stars, of course they're writing to this, but it also shows that personal place without having to change any of the words or lyrics. They'll show you like them singing the same verse over and over, and it's really nice, but then they might jump to a quiet moment where they sing this where they sing the same thing, but it means something else, which is such sharp writing and such incredible direction. And yeah, if we're talking Oscar nods already, I could see this pulling a Best Animated Feature nod, and I could see it winning Best Original Song, because I don't think there's a bad song in this movie. They do have a main Demon King villain named Gi Ma, who is like the main villain. Yeah. But all of his other subordinates and the people he sends out are deeply rich and complex characters.
Oh boy.
And you see where they're coming from. And they are making sequels because, while it is a trio, it mostly focuses on the main character, Rumi. I could see the sequels following like one of the other two. If they make 3 movies, each focusing on one girl, and telling the story. It blends K-pop music with Korean mythology and its culture, and just runs with it in this spectacular way. And it's only an hour and 39 minutes long. It's not a long watch at all, but it's so perfectly paced, and I would have watched another 3 hours of it.
Gotcha.
It's so well done, so good. So Yeah, it's safe to say I liked K-pop Demon Hunters. You should watch it, even if you're not a fan of K-pop.
Well, a movie I saw that had a pretty short runtime, but sadly felt a little too long. Now, when I say that, sadly it felt too long, it doesn't mean I say this movie's bad, but I do have a couple criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a movie that was I'm sorry. I saw an A24 movie called The Legend of Ochi, which is a very simple story. It's about a little girl who lives in this fantasy realm that looks like something out of a Wes Anderson storybook. So it's like a modern like fantasy world where there's these creatures. They're called the Ochis. They're kind of like magic monkeys. I don't know how else to describe them. They're like these orange furred like apes that have blue faces. And this girl stumbles across a baby, and the idea is that these things are deadly. Their bite can turn you into one. And it's very much bring the creature back to his home story. We've seen this before, and this has been done well before, of course. It's just, well, one thing I give this movie credit for, its script is very minimal, which when you're making a kids movie, if you're not incorporating a lot of dialogue, because a lot of people tend to think you need to spell things out for kids, sometimes show don't tell can work just as well. If anything, I think it works well with this movie. Unfortunately, it gets indulgent with the whole show don't tell, that there's some plot threads where I'm like, I'm not following this, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm supposed to respond to this. And unfortunately, that makes the ending feel like it goes on for too long, which I'm not going to go into details on how the ending goes. It's a good ending, but imagine if you remember the movie An American Tail.
Yes.
You know how like it's like the best way I can describe this movie, it's like slave labor, having to like work your way to get to the happy ending because it's such a dark and really depressing and scary movie.
Right.
And this is a movie that's trying to do that. It's trying to do like a Wes Anderson meets The Dark Crystal, but with minimal dialogue. And the problem is once you get to that ending where everything is built up to it, you're just kind of going, okay, yeah, when are the credits? They're hugging. When are the credits rolling? However, I would say I would still recommend this movie just because of how original it presents itself. That's how I would say that. If you're someone who likes to watch movies for their design and their vibes, I definitely would give this movie a look. But if you saw the trailer and you think this movie is going to make you cry, I can't go that far as to say that, but give it a look. You might still get something good out of this movie.
Right. Man, I kind of do want to hear that just from your pitch, even understanding the idea that it's not perfect.
Yeah.
I'm still curious and interested. That does sound interesting.
It is on HBO Max. So, yeah, it was a movie I'd say sadly, but I did miss it in theaters and I wanted to see it. But I'm also like, I'm kind of glad I did see it at home because something tells me if I went to see it in theaters like at late at night, I probably would have fallen asleep, sadly. Yeah.
Well, now we're going to get into some movies that we meant to talk about, but time and life got in the way. And so far, this might be my favorite movie of the year I've seen so far. It was my most anticipated, and it met all my levels that I wanted it at, and that was Superman.
This movie was my most anticipated movie of this summer, and yes, that was Superman. I have seen this movie twice. You have seen it, what, 3 times now?
Twice,
yeah. The first time I saw it, I'm not going to say I was underwhelmed, but there was parts of me that was like, why don't I feel like I'm vibing with this just yet? The reason I feel is because superhero movies in the past, 15 years now have always had the origin story. They've always had to establish things. And people say, well, they can't just throw us into the lore. We'll be lost. This is a movie that definitely throws you into the lore, regardless of what you know about Superman. But I think the filmmakers did, upon rewatching, I did realize, no, we don't need an origin story.
Right.
We like the text at the beginning. Look, some people don't like reading before a movie starts. I understand. But if you just read 30 years ago, a young boy sent from the planet Krypton crash landed on Earth and then became Superman, well, yeah, there you go. That's all you need. Because the rest of the movie shows us, well, what's that man like? Yeah.
Right. And I think that, for one, I actually love the opening text a ton because it makes it feel more like a sci-fi fantasy story.
Oh, yeah.
Putting us into this world that says 3,000 years ago, this is when the metahumans were figured out. Okay, that's interesting.
Well, what's a metahuman? A person with
30 years
superpowers.
ago,
Yeah.
300 years ago, this happened. 30 years ago, and the power of 3 that we keep hearing. It's even later on in the movie, we learned that Clark and Lois have been dating for
3 months. Yeah.
Which is hinting, I think, at the Trinity that's coming.
Yes, at least with Batman and Wonder Woman, who they do not. So a lot of problems superhero movies have is, of course, for the most part, is being overstuffed. And I don't just mean in terms of characters. I do mean story and plot threads. This is a movie that is very heavy-handed. Yes, it can be with its lore, but it wants, kind of like when we discussed in our world building episode, this is a movie that just wants you to be engulfed in the world this is. And this is a world engulfed with metahumans that have been living on the planet for a while. So show that world. So if anything, if you're like us, if you grew up in the 2000s and you watched Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, think of this Superman movie as a live action, an unofficial live action adaptation of that show.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
It really gives off that vibe of just, you know what this is. We trust you. Here we go. And we get phenomenal performances. Of course, David Corenswet is amazing as Superman.
And Nicholas Hoult is despicable as Lex Luthor.
It makes me intrigued to hear that he's going to be our protagonist for the sequel, Man of Tomorrow.
And they have to work together, Superman and Lex Luthor, to fight off someone even worse.
My guess is Brainiac.
If not Darkseid, but...
Probably not Darkseid.
I think Darkseid's coming later.
I think it's not even going to be much later, because I think our main villain is going to be the Center. I think that's what we're going to figure out in Lanterns.
I want to say
prediction,
it could be, if not the Anti-Monitor.
Right, Anti-Monitor could be there, but I think they're going to be facing Brainiac, because if it's a Kryptonian threat that Superman can't face, well, who knows how to face Kryptonians?
Yep, Superman, yeah.
It's Lex Luthor.
And Lex Luthor too, yeah. Then there's also, aside from being overstuffed, well, I say overstuffed, this movie also has more characters in it. And some of these characters may be obscure. Some of these you're like, oh yeah, I recognize that name. Like, say, Green Lantern. Okay, I've heard that name.
Guy Gardner played
perfectly, yeah, by Nathan Fillion. Yeah, and Isabel Merced perfectly captured the Hawkgirl persona of being that tough woman who just doesn't really take any shit from anyone, just headstrong. Shira Hull, they don't call her Shira, but I believe,
don't think so, not yet, but
that's just what she was essentially the live action version of the animated Hawkgirl from the Justice League show.
1,000,000%. And then Mr. Terrific is
great. Eddie Gathegi, that's his name. He was great. He was perfectly monotone. You watch that performance, it's like, man, he sounds like half the cast of Phantom Menace. It's like, that's intentional, guys.
Right, and not only does it work, but it makes his dry humor even stronger.
Yeah.
I think James Gunn's script here is really solid because it just trusts that you're ready to go. It's not afraid to have fun. Like, you give us Crypto the super dog, and he ends up becoming one of my favorite characters in the whole movie.
And he's not just there as a throwaway joke. No, he's there. He's not just there. Okay, I'm not saying this joke was bad in Guardians 3, but he's not just there so people can say, bad dog, and he goes, and then he does, and then someone says, good dog, after he does something good. No,
right.
he plays an integral role.
Right, like, he is a major part.
He is a dog that is a Kryptonian, and he is out of control.
And when the reveal of why he's out of control at the end is probably just one of the smartest ones and great setup for what's coming in Supergirl.
Yes.
Man, I'm so looking forward to Supergirl now.
Just the movie itself, I want to say, kind of going into this, what Superman does in comparison to the other Superman movies, I would say Christopher Reeve was embracing like Golden Age era Superman, and then we get Brandon Routh that's kind of doing a little bit of Golden Age and Dark Bronze Age Superman. Henry Cavill is very much Dark Age. This is a Superman movie that wears Silver Age on its sleeves like a badge of honor.
Right.
Like, I got major Silver Age, like 50s, 60s era, despite the fact that it probably takes place in the year 2025.
Right.
Like, just from the sunlight, the way people are dressed and everything. And just how, like, this world is, like I said, how this world engulfs you with this idea of like how superheroes are living in this world. And what does that mean? Because something comes up. Okay, I'm going to nerd out for maybe 2 minutes.
Go right ahead.
So if you watch this movie, okay, you have seen this movie, you watch the movie, you see the Superman logo, you're probably looking at that thinking, why does it look so funky? It looks like a Z. That is a logo for a Superman comic called Kingdom Come. It is a comic, without getting too much into details. The comic surrounds the idea of metahumans essentially not destroying, but becoming so much more populous than regular people that the human race is on the verge of extinction. And later in the movie, when Luthor is yelling at Superman about his superiority complex, Luthor eventually says to Superman, I hate you because you are killing us. So with that in mind, what could that mean? Does that mean more metahumans are showing up, that the human race is on the verge of extinction. Like I said, I don't know. I'm intrigued.
It gives
I can't wait to see.
serious X-Men vibes.
Yeah.
With the idea of mutants versus humans. And I'm really intrigued to see where it's all going to go. We've just seen it how it is on Earth. Of course, Peacemaker is going on right now, which is exploring that even further, and the idea of the multiverse and pocket dimensions.
I've only seen the first 2 episodes of Peacemaker, but I have laughed my ass off, and I have been, but all at the same time, I've also been going, oh my god, what are you doing with that pocket dimension, dude?
And then we're also going to be seeing Supergirl, which is going to be exploring the cosmos.
And it's also going to be...
on there.
It's also going to be not a coming of age story, but more like a story of self-discovery, because Superman in this movie, I promise I am not spoiling anything when I say this. Superman is very much a sweetheart in this movie.
Right.
He does not swear. He always wants to help people. Like literally his biggest swear word in this movie when he's talking to Krypto is, "What the hey, man?"
Right.
Yeah.
He does swear at once, but that's just quoting something.
This probably, yeah. But and then he even says he's punk rock, and Lois says, "No, dude, you're not punk rock." So Supergirl, I'm not going to say she's 100% the opposite, but Supergirl is very jaded because she grew up on Krypton when she was growing up on Krypton when Clark was just a baby. But when Krypton exploded, she was on a chunk of the planet and that drifted off into space.
This does not come from Superman the movie. It comes from the comic Supergirl.
Yes, excuse me. Yeah, this is an origin story.
Supergirl the movie is going to be based off this
Excuse me.
comic.
Yes. So yeah, what I'm breaking down is just the overall origin of Supergirl, which is essentially she is a jaded character who grew up on a chunk of Krypton, and she's experienced all this death and destruction around her. So she essentially loses herself to the rest of the galaxy.
Right.
Meanwhile,
and the
Superman,
Supergirl film is going to be written by Ana de Guerra, who's also writing the Wonder Woman movie and the Teen Titans movie.
But I believe she's also got some help and creative consultants from Tom King, if I had to be honest, the guy who wrote the story.
Tom King is also show running the Mr. Miracle show animated series that's coming out because he created the character, and he is also one of the architects, because James Gunn is of course helping head the story, but Tom King is one of the architects that helped build out what this entire story going forward is going to be.
Well, it's because Tom King wrote a comic run back a few years ago called Mr. Miracle, which was really good, albeit a little bit graphic near the end. But yeah, it was a really cool story that just showed off just how this man was raised. And he's essentially, well, we're getting a little carried away, but he's essentially super Harry Houdini.
Right. But either way, Superman is amazing. It's fantastic. I love it so much. There's one girl on TikTok, her name is Monique. She famously said, "What did they lace this movie with? Cocaine?" Which is how I feel about it. I just want to keep watching it. So I'm definitely getting it when it comes out on DVD. It's so good, and it's such a great time.
Which is a great time. And a movie, like I said, in our most anticipated, I think this is a movie we need because most importantly, it shows us what happens, not what happens, the super strength of just being a good person.
Yeah. And going into another film from DC next to Marvel, who also had a major hit this year that sadly seems to not be doing well.
Well, let's not get too carried away, but let's introduce the movie.
Which is Fantastic Four: First Steps.
Now, Fantastic Four, I will be honest, I told you this after the movie. I like Superman more, but this movie did impress me the most because it did have, for me, it had an uphill battle. But for you were hooked. Like when we went to see the movie at an IMAX, like they did the countdown from 10 to 1, and I remember seeing you just light up once they hit the 4, and then they went Fantastic Four.
Giacchino's score deserves an Oscar nomination. I'm just saying that now. This is one of the best Marvel scores. I personally,
not just best Marvel scores, just all around best looking Marvel movies, just in terms of presentation. Not that all Marvel movies suck in terms of presentation. This is just something. It's refreshing. It was like Guardians of the Galaxy. It felt refreshing to see this whole world because, like Superman, this movie wears its Silver Age roots on itself again, like a badge of honor.
Right. It is pure Jack Kirby through and through.
Pure.
Not just giving us this lovely, great characters with a simple setup, but then it goes into the complexities of that and what does that feel like.
Yeah. Now
it's so Jack Kirby, and I love it. The cast for this, just the team itself, is pitch perfect. And also, like Superman, it's not an origin story. It says, here's what happened to them. Here we go.
Now, I'm not going to say there's a problem, but there is a little hurdle to that. Superman has the unfair advantage of having two origin story movies, one of them being really good, the other one being a little bit more divisive, but still, it's got its fans. And then the Fantastic Four movies sadly don't have the honor of having a movie that anyone like, I guess, labels as the perfect origin story. Now, that being said, you're right. This movie gives us the Fantastic Four right now. And I think some people say this is probably overcorrection. And it's like, no, this is more like note taking in the sense that here are these superheroes, like you said, and here they are in this world. It just wants to engulf you in this world with superheroes and how they operate because, much like Superman, this is just how the world is. This is how we can accept it. It's like Miyazaki. This is my world. This is how it is. Have fun. Have fun with it. That's pretty much what they're saying.
The universe is called 828 because Jack Kirby's birthday was 8/28.
Oh, August 28th. Nice.
Right. That was the reason they named it 828. And for this team itself, it's such a great, simple story, which is we have a child, but that child is so powerful that
he could rewrite reality. He's a god. Reality. Yeah.
And then it comes at almost the right and wrong time when they're told their planet is marked for death by the world eater Galactus.
Now, Galactus, as we've probably seen, many people could say, oh, here comes more correction. Well, it's the right kind of correction because guess what? Galactus back, in 2007 was just a giant cloud.
Right.
There was nothing to it. This Galactus, who is voiced perfectly by Ralph Ineson, like when he says, little insects, I was once your size once. Now, that's not my best impersonation of him, but watch the movie, get some good sound quality because Ralph Ineson's voice is that kind of voice.
Yeah, being in IMAX was perfect for it because the sound mixing, his voice is so deep and the way they boosted it was literally shaking the seats, which made you feel more immersed and like, oh, this is terrifying.
And I think probably the biggest highlight, because the sad thing, not to knock on the other Fantastic Four movies, but neither one of those movies, in my opinion, felt like they had, and I'm not saying this makes or break a comic book movie, but I can't remember a big action set piece from that movie. Now, I remember the finale to this movie, but I think the real standout was the black hole sequence.
Yes.
Now, if you've seen Interstellar and you're like, wow, that was insane, someone at Marvel said, okay, we're going to take that. We're not just going to do a slingshot. We're going to have a murderous Silver Surfer chasing them. They're going to be firing their weapons, but their ammunition's going to go in several different directions because this is space and time being bent. Oh, and let's throw in a birthing sequence while we're at it. Yeah, that might make it more intense. There we go.
Oh, and it's also a chase sequence because Galactus wants this child that's about to be born.
And he cast a spell or zapped the Invisible Woman to have her give birth to him. Now I was like, he can do that?
Yeah, it's genuinely so terrifying and so well done. And it's funny because a lot of people said, wow, Matt Shakman's an incredible director for film. And it's amazing what he's done on television, which is funny because everyone who worked with him on television after Fantastic Four came out, they were like, what took you so long to get into film? Mm-hmm. He always said, just waited for the right one to come out.
Write for the right role, yeah. This was initially going to be, the director was, John Watts, I believe?
John Watts was the original director, and then they spent a while going through a few directors. I think they did talk to John Krasinski if he wanted to reprise the role, but he decided not to.
I'm glad he didn't, personally.
I think Pedro Pascal is perfect for what's going forward.
Okay, yeah, all four. I think if I have to be honest, with all the Fantastic Four movies, regardless of what we think of them, from Roger Corman to Tim Story and Josh Trank up to now, I'd say they've all had spot-on casting from the beginning. They all have great casting, and their characters and personalities do shine, with the exception of Fan Forstick, which we're not going to discuss to great length here. But especially, I remember after the movie, the characters were that interesting. I think we were almost labeling ourselves after certain characters. Like, I think we said, yeah, you're definitely Reed Richards. My then roommate JD was with us, like, he's Johnny Storm. And then everyone was looking at me, he's like, you're Ben.
You're Ben Grimm.
Yeah.
And I still believe that.
Yeah. And I think overall, not overall, what else is there to talk about? It wears its roots on its sleeves, like it's proud of itself. It engulfs us, and the performances.
It makes me excited for what's coming in Doomsday.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to be, I think going forward, it's clear that Reed is probably going to be like the Tony Stark of the universes.
Yeah.
And I'm very open to that. I think he's a perfect choice for it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just a really, really well done film. A phenomenal score, gorgeous production design, amazing, of course, costuming works within production design. Sound design was beautiful, especially on stuff like Ben, and the way they would just make him clap.
Yeah, the way the rocks moved on his body, like there was movement to him.
Oh, and
like
Matthew Wood.
Herbie was great, yeah. And then of course, just overall, I mean, if I had to be honest, actually, if I could just get a little bit more of something out of one character, I would ask a little bit more from Pedro Pascal. But I think that's also because he spent a good chunk of the movie trying to figure things out. I would have liked to have seen more character coming out of him because, to be fair, Reed Richards is very much the leader and he's very much the man who figures it out. They narrowed that. I want to see more of Reed Richards, the father and the man and the family man, which I'm not saying they did a bad job. I'm just saying I would have liked to have seen more of.
Right. It is clear this man loves his wife.
Yeah.
And it's clear that he is going to do anything to protect his family.
Yeah.
He just also happens to be the smartest man alive, and how does that affect him?
I think that was his biggest character, because I haven't read too many Fantastic Four comics. But before this movie came out, the day before we saw this, I went out to ABC, Austin's Books and Comics, and I found the first print of Fantastic Four versus Galactus. And just the way they talked in this and everything, and the way Reed would speak to Sue. So aside from modernizing the dialogue, it's more like, yeah, Reed is very much the problem solver. But I think the other point is, and again, the fact that I want to see more of this just shows of how great they did already. I want to see Reed, the father, who has no idea what the F he's doing. Because let's be real, like from what I've been told, he's a man who knows a lot about many things. He doesn't know how to be a father.
Mm-hmm. And I'm very excited to see this Fantastic Four going up against an Robert Downey Jr. Doom.
Yeah.
Especially because now we got the suit design reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he looks good.
That could be a rumor, but if that is the true suit design, I can't wait. Yeah.
And then moving on to a film that my opinions on it have changed very, very slightly. I still will not say it's a good movie. We watched this for your birthday.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And, man, this was fun. This was War of the Worlds.
This is a movie I told you we should watch because as cinephiles, being aware that there's even a remake of this classic, it just felt right to watch this. Because War of the Worlds, look, I'm not going to act like War of the Worlds is something I hold dear to my heart. Now, when I saw how this movie was made, when it was made, who was in it, what some of the premise was, I was like, oh God, how does this fall apart? What happens? And
so, interestingly enough, I'll say where my perspective has slightly changed, because I agree with you. It's still an entertainingly bad film. It does not work. But this producer, who has produced a few of the other films that are like this, where they're all on like computer screens.
Yeah, his name is Timur Bekmambetov. It's I think he's a Filipino director. Yeah, he directed Wanted. Yeah,
right. He was experimenting, I think, trying to do a Hollywood action thriller where he had previously done horror and suspense. And
yes.
It's okay for him to try and do. And clearly this also sat on the shelf for years because Amazon didn't want to release it. Maybe because, one, the drone stuff is not even
it's
in
not
our
there
world
yet,
anymore.
yeah.
And two, they probably were like, this just wasn't working, and then they probably had to release it. Ice Cube recently did come out and talk about it.
Oh boy, I can't wait to hear this.
Because he's doing some stuff with streamers right now. Mm-hmm. And I will admit, Ice Cube is a good actor. He's just, this movie does not showcase that talent. And he admitted, yeah, we shot this movie in 15 days.
Oh my
God. The director was not with me in the room. We shot it during COVID. And so he literally he was literally flying blind. We were like, his performance looks like he's flying blind. That's because he was flying blind. Really, that was the best he could do.
That was the best he could do. You're getting direction from a computer screen, and you're sitting in a room, and pretty much all you're doing is reacting to your computer like some kid who's reacting to his first death scene in a video game.
Right. And so, for all this movie's faults, I do admire it for experimenting and trying things, especially when the industry was shut down. And they were trying. It was an experiment that evidently didn't work. But I will also say, as bad as this is, and it is entertainingly bad, which is the merit of the movie, am I not entertained? I was very entertained.
Yes, we were.
Not for the reasons you believe, or reasons they wanted. I will say it's still not the worst movie I've seen this year.
It's not the worst movie I've seen. It's objectively, so far out of everything else, it is the worst.
Right.
But in terms of everything else that's probably come out this year, this is not the worst thing. But with this movie, like you were saying earlier, for trying to experiment, yes, experiment with a experiment with a technique that hasn't been done for quite a while, well, that being found footage. Well, this isn't found footage, but it's almost like a subgenre of found footage. It's desktop filmmaking almost.
Right, and it's a genre that's also been done very, very well.
I saw it done well in a movie that was by the same producer called Unfriended. It was a very good social satire of just how disgusting teenagers are when it comes to just showing things on social media, which is why I never had a lot of social media growing up, and I'm thankful for that. And this was just a case of they took an idea, they said, let's do this with it, but somehow on paper, they probably thought this could work. And in practice, they probably didn't notice it, or maybe they probably did. They just didn't want to say anything right then and there. They just realized, look, I'm in this movie. I've got the money set. Let's just get this over with. They probably realized this is not going to work later on. And then once it came out, that was their seal of approval. Yeah.
Right. I really wonder, because they shot it over 15 days, which I'm kind of impressed that they did get a lot of this footage for an hour and a half in 15 days.
Yeah.
Because there's some filmmakers who do that with 7-minute short films and they barely make it.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering, wow, you guys shot a movie in 15 days. Now, we don't know how long, of course, post-production took for effects and everything, which the effects themselves, there are wonky effects here and there, but there are some good shots and good movements in here.
I don't know if I can say the effects are good yet, because I would have to rewatch it. I remember them looking more like Sharknado, especially in sequences involving the fighter jets and how they would flip. It looked like how a shark
Right, there
flipped.
are some shots here that are genuinely terrible.
The freaking tripods, I remember saying they had a good design, but the effect is not good in how they move.
Right. I will say, now I'm thinking about it, yeah, I remember some of the lighting being off. Some of the cool things they did, like when they took the footage of California wildfires from back in 2015, 2016 and had the tripod looming over it.
Yeah.
That was a cool shot.
That was fine, yeah. But then there's also the biggest problem with this movie, which is probably the big make or break, and that is the script.
Yeah, the script needed a few more passes, and I think, like, if you had done 2 more drafts to really figure out what you were saying and then tighten it down, I think this could have worked.
Because the movie...
And I think if you shot it over a period of 6 weeks instead of 15 days,
yeah,
you would have gotten something a lot better.
Because the performances and just the overall story, so without going too much into spoilers, Ice Cube plays, I guess, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and he is using our hard-earned taxpayer money to essentially keep an eye on his children. I am not kidding. He has a camera rigged in his daughter's refrigerator. He takes a peek and sees she hasn't been eating the protein she's supposed to be eating while she's pregnant or whatever, and he starts scolding her for eating a muffin. And then she's like, "You called me for this?" And it's insane. And the acting just overall, I think we lost it at a moment when Ice Cube is watching a friend of his investigate an alien crash site, and then she disappears, and then the feed cuts off, and he's going, Sandra, oh my God. It's just the way he said that. Oh my God.
Yeah, because he didn't know what he was going to react to. He didn't have the director there to be like, more like this. Probably he was over Zoom or something. And
yeah.
It really just didn't. It doesn't work, and I feel bad because Ice Cube is a good actor, but even he admits, you can tell, even he has admitted, yeah, no, that is not my best work I've ever done. But he even has Clark Gregg in this, who does okay with this character, but even then, he's just villain.
He's just reading what the script tells him, and Eva Longoria, she's just hot chick, I guess.
She's the scientist that somehow can survive anything.
He can survive anything,
she's Superwoman?
Yeah.
This movie is so entertainingly bad.
And then, oh man, there was a reveal. I called it earlier on in the movie. So apparently there's this hacker who's getting like government information without any sources, of course. I mean, where else would you get it from? And then there's a reveal of who this hacker is. And I predicted it. I was like, wait, it's got to be this person because he's bringing this up. So yeah, and then when it was revealed, it was like, wow, who didn't see that coming a mile away?
On this, there is another plot line that just when we saw it and said it, I was like, there is no way that would have happened. There is no way in any time, in any place, in any era, in any government system that this would have worked. There's just no way, not even in an anarchy way.
Exactly.
Could this work.
This whole script is almost like the mindset. It's almost like a Steven Seagal, Neil Breen understanding about how governments and military work.
Yeah, it's not good, but I admire it for trying to be experimental, and objectively, it is technically the worst I've seen, but actually, no, even if I think about it objectively, because I'll just say right now where I'm currently sitting, Electric State is still worse.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. I'll get into that maybe next year when we talk about our best, worst, and favorites of 2025.
Okay.
But yeah, Electric State, I think even objectively is worse than War of the Worlds.
I'll have to give that one a look then.
But other than that, this summer has been pretty fun.
This summer was a good summer, and especially with all the other things that we saw, the stuff from our top 5 list, the stuff I got to watch, like Ballerina and 28 years later was all great. I sadly didn't get to see The Materialist, but I made up for that by seeing The Naked Gun. All movies I could could go for hours about how great they were. But
so is there anything coming up later on this year that you're looking forward to?
Oh man, I'm looking forward to Wicked Part 2, or Wicked for Good, I guess.
I was looking forward to that, and then Cynthia Erivo played Jesus.
Oh, that's right.
So that sadly is not. I will probably check it out when it comes out, but it has no longer hit it just because that was a personal offense to me, and I should say. But the other films I'm interested in, one that just came out was The Long Walk.
Yes, I've heard about that
story,
one. Yeah.
Directed by Francis Lawrence, who I'm a huge fan of.
Oh, the guy who did the Hunger Games movies, yeah.
Yeah, he did Catching Fire, and he did Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Yeah.
And this is a Stephen King movie, which Stephen King is having a good year this year. We also have Smashing Machine from Benny Safdie, starring The Rock.
Yes.
Really very good. Anemone, the return of Daniel Day-Lewis, directed by his son, and it seems to be a kind of horror film in a way, almost.
Oh, okay.
And it looks really, really cool, and I think it's going to be a really cool thing. Shelby Oaks, directed by Chris Stuckman.
Yeah.
Produced by Mike Flanagan. The trailers for it look great. I'll give this one a look. Tron Ares.
Yeah.
Man, this movie looks cool. And my brother, who is a huge Tron fan, has been analyzing it. It looks like similar to Legacy, that it's technically a sequel, but it also is trying to do its own thing. I'm very curious to see what they do, but apparently they're also honoring the original 2 movies, making them all interconnect in a way.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to Kiss of the Spider-Woman from Bill Condon. It's being advertised as a Jennifer Lopez vehicle, but really it's a story about these 2 men who are both political prisoners, and one of them is a very optimistic person who disappears into the movies. Mm-hmm. So all of the musical numbers in his head that are happening, which are referencing his mental state and what he's going through in the prison, are going to be represented by this actress he's a fan of, and his vision of this actress is played by Jennifer Lopez.
Oh.
Being directed by Bill Condon, who has had hit or misses. He directed, of course, Dreamgirls, which is fantastic. He directed Beauty and the Beast, which was okay. But I'm curious to see what he's doing with this one. And then Del Toro's Frankenstein is coming out this year.
That's a good one. Yeah, I can't wait.
I think you just say that, and it's exciting. Another Stephen King adaptation with The Running Man, directed by Edgar Wright, starring Glenn Powell. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Edgar Wright doing Stephen King. Like, make this happen sooner. Zootopia 2, I'm looking forward to.
That's right.
Wake Up Dead Man by Ryan Johnson in the Benoit Blanc series.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally, I know you're not looking forward to it as much as I am, but Avatar Fire and Ash.
Yeah, if I hear enough things, like if there's enough differences in it, we'll see, yeah.
Right. I'm probably not going to be the person you go to for that. But other way, friends, what did you think of this summer? What did you enjoy? Let us know down in the comments. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe here on YouTube. And we'll see you all later.
See ya.